Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Today I want to talk about an alien abduction case that I didn't really know existed until just recently, thanks to our good friends at Eyes on Cinema. They posted a video from the early 2000s that involved the parties involved in this abduction. Basically, if this is true, if this was not a hoax, then it looks like it was a botched abduction by aliens. And I've pulled an article up. It's known as the Mackay alien abduction. It happened in October of 2001 in Australia. And the abductee was a woman named Amy Rylance. And I'm going to read this article. This was actually, you could find this at UFOcasebook.com. I will leave a link to this article so you can read it. Apparently this was I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it was from a report that was filed by the Australian UFO Research Network at the time. Now, apparently, there were witnesses to this abduction, well, at least one witness to it, and the woman who was abducted didn't even had no idea what was going on. It's a very interesting case. And I'm also going to, we'll listen to some of the commentary from the people involved as well as we go through this. But anyway, let's read some of this article. It says, an extraordinary and controversial milieu has developed around events that reportedly began late on the evening of Thursday, October 4th, 2001, at a Gundaya property near Taiero, culminating in the early hours of Friday, October 5th, 2001, and then played out in the glare of rapidly escalating media coverage. 3 people were directly involved in these alleged events. Keith Rylance, 39, his wife Amy, 22, and their business partner Petra Heller, 35, were on their property, which was being developed as Whispering Winds Winery. Other potential activities were also being developed at the location. The following account comes from interviews conducted by us with them, along with primary source material, such as TV interviews. Keith Rylance told us that he had gone to sleep in the caravan bedroom at about 9:30 p.m. Petra retired to her bedroom in the caravan annex. Amy stayed on a couch watching TV in the caravan annex lounge room. Each of these locations were in close proximity, separated by a window and wall respectively from the lounge room. Petra's room had a door leading to the lounge room, which was left ajar. The door to the bedroom where Keith was apparently was open to the lounge room. Amy apparently fell asleep on the couch. A storm was in the area. Around 11:15 p.m., Petra was reportedly woken up, and when she entered the adjacent lounge was confronted by an extraordinary sight that allegedly quickly overwhelmed her. A rectangular beam of light was being projected through the open window of the caravan lounge room. This light beam appeared to be truncated at the end. Inside the beam, Petra claims to have seen Amy in a sleep-prone position being carried out headfirst through the window. Underneath her, also within the beam, were the items that had been on the coffee table adjacent to the couch that Amy had been on. Before apparently fainting in shock, Petra saw that the beam was coming from a disc-shaped UFO hovering just above the ground a short distance away, near a tree at the rear of the clear section, immediately behind the annex caravan house. Petra reports she believes she was only in a faint for a very short period of time. Regaining consciousness, she began screaming. Keith reports that he was awoken by the commotion coming from Petra. As he came from the caravan bedroom and stepped down into the lounge room annex, Keith claims he was confronted by the sight of a highly agitated Petra and the contents of the coffee table on the floor in front of the window. He told us that he soon realized that the window screen was torn in both a vertical fashion and along the bottom of the window frame. Keith indicated that initially he couldn't get any sense out of Petra, who was crying and very agitated, so he rushed outside trying to locate Amy. She was reportedly nowhere to be found. Keith states that when he started to be less agitated himself, he was eventually able to get from Petra an idea of what happened. Keith claims he initially refused to believe what Petra was telling him. He said he rushed outside again trying to find his wife. Eventually, as the situation became clearer, Keith indicates he decided to call the police. Keith called the Tayaro police around 11:40 p.m., reporting that his wife had been abducted and imploring that the police should come out. The status at the time meant that there were some delays in the police coming out, but about an hour and a half after the initial call, Senior Constable Robert Maranga from Tayaro and an officer from Maryborough arrived at the site. Initially, police thought they might have been walking into a situation involving foul play, even perhaps a murder scene. But then the bizarre circumstances of the alleged events came into focus. The two people, Keith and Petra, at the Gundaya property were claiming that Amy Rylance had been abducted by a spaceship. The officers were struggling to keep an open mind. They were joined later by Sergeant John Bosniak, the officer in charge of the Tayaro police. He had been asleep when the police called him to assist in the investigation. Now, I'm going to skip through some of this. Later on, they received a phone call. Keith did, and it was a young woman. A woman was calling from Mackay, which is basically 500 miles away from where this abduction happened, indicating that she had taken a somewhat distressed and apparently dehydrated young woman from a petrol service station on the northern outskirts of central Queensland, city of Mackay, some 790 kilometers to the north of the Gundaya Tayaro area. So it would have been basically close to 500 miles away. The young woman turned out to be Amy Rylance, and the female caller was ringing to advise that Amy was apparently all right and was at the Mackay hospital where she had been examined by a doctor. Keith handed the phone to the constable, Maranga. Now, I just want to stop here for a second. So within 3 hours, somehow this woman was... Now, if this wasn't a hoax, we don't know really what happened here. But if it was real, right, these people weren't hoaxing it. And this story was never resolved. There's really no end. It just ends the way it ends here. I mean, that's it. Nobody's going to, either you believe it or you don't. Either you believe what happened or you don't believe what happened. But these people apparently at the time were very serious. In fact, Amy Rylance signed an affidavit, a police affidavit, stating exactly what she knew happened, as far as she knew what happened to her. Yeah, she explained to the police, and she signed an affidavit stating what happened. And basically what the statement indicated that she, the last thing she recollected was lying on the couch in the Gundaya property, which was basically about very close to 500 miles away from where she turned up 3 hours later. She had no recollection of the events that her friend Petra had described, but claimed that the next thing she remembered, waking up on a bench in a strange rectangular room. An illumination came from the walls and the ceiling. She was alone. She indicated she called out and heard what seemed to be a male voice asking her to be calm and that everything would be all right and that she would not be harmed. Soon an opening appeared in the wall and a guy about 6 feet tall walked into the room. The man appeared to be slender in build but in perfect proportion, covered head to foot in a full-body suit. He had what seemed to be a black covering mask on his face with a hole for his eyes, nose, and mouth. He repeated his calming assurances. Amy felt she had been there a while. The guy told her they were returning her to a place not far from where they took her from because the lights were wrong at the property and it wasn't safe. She then indicates that she found herself lying on the bed and falling asleep. The next thing she recollected was that she woke up on the ground with trees around her. She felt disoriented, could smell the ocean, and indicated she was not sure how long she tumbled through bushland, but seemingly it was for a long time, but she felt she wasn't making much progress. She then came out onto a road that looked like a highway and saw a light from a petrol station. She walked into the station where staff, seeing her state, tried to offer some assistance. She accepted some water as she felt somewhat dehydrated. Initially, she was not able to answer identifying questions and didn't know where she was. She was also asked if she had been drinking or was on drugs, to which she said no. Amy indicated she felt tired, sore, drained, and lethargic. She asked the woman at the service station to take her to the hospital as she didn't know of where else to go. The woman and her friend took Amy to the hospital. Now you have to listen to some of these. I'm gonna play, some of the comments that were actually. First, we're gonna play. Here's actually a local Australian TV station did a report on this at the time in 2001. And here's Amy Rylance at the time in her own words.
I don't remember being taken, just like I don't remember being dropped off. I was asleep when it happened.
Do you believe in aliens or UFOs?
I do now. I definitely do now. The only physical evidence I have are the marks from the tests that they did on me.
What sort of tests?
Just getting kind of DNA samples, and they didn't do anything bad to me, so it was wholly a good experience from my point of view.
And now here's Amy's friend Petra Heller explaining what she's experienced in her own words.
I believe in it now because I've seen it and I know what I saw. I've seen Amy in front of me on a beam of light being carried out of the living room window into a really huge ship outside. No, I don't drink. I don't take drugs at all. I'm just a normal person.
So what was your reaction when you saw this? What did you do? Did you reach out to help her?
No, I couldn't. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it, and I fainted.
And finally, here is Keith Rylance explaining what his experience was with this whole thing in his own words at the time.
I freaked out completely. I went mental, running around, screaming for her. But after I believed Petra, which I did after about 5 minutes, I called the police. So it doesn't matter if we were all on hallucinogenic drugs and drinking, that still wouldn't put Amy 800 kilometers away. They're never going to acknowledge the existence of aliens.
So these people seemed like they were telling the truth. I mean, you'll hear their voices, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you could see their faces. They seemed like they believed everything that happened. Now, of course, it's hard to prove something like this. Now, at one point, there were some investigators that were trying to meet with them to get more information from them, but they were having trouble because the three of them were afraid, apparently, because it seemed like there was somebody chasing them around in some sort of a truck. And it was something like a Men in Black kind of situation. And that's all we know. I mean, and they never talked about this publicly again. It's just went underground as far as we know. When you hear them speaking themselves, it doesn't seem like they're lying. It seems like they're, concerned. But I mean, here's the problem. Something like this, the only proof that she had was that she turned up, 500 miles away. Now, there were some reports at the time. Some people tried to somebody told the police, contacted the police at the time, and said that they saw Amy Rylance in that area where she turned up before the alleged abduction occurred. But there was never anything ever came out of that. I mean, who knows who made that call, who made that statement to police? I mean, she signed an affidavit at the time explaining as far as what she knew happened. So it seems believable. It seems like it could have happened. So let's. If this is real, if this was a real occurrence, now it's hard to believe 2001. It's basically over 20 years ago now. If this indeed happened, what can we say about this? It sounds to me like it was a botched alien abduction. Somebody within that alien group that kidnapped her screwed up somehow. Somehow her friend Petra wasn't supposed to wake up and see this going on. Usually in alien abduction cases, what happens is anybody who's around a person who's about to get abducted, somehow they get shut off like a light switch. Apparently, Petra did not get shut off like a light switch. Momentarily, she passed out after she saw her friend getting, floated out the window. Now, of course, I'll leave this article here so you could check it out for yourself. But to me, this sounds like, if in fact it wasn't a hoax, nothing ever else. We don't know anything else after this. Whatever happened after this. Nobody ever stepped forward and said, "Oh, it was a big joke." I mean, like, why though? Why would anybody pull a stunt like this? Right. And then why would they go underground after doing? I mean, again, this Amy Rylance at the time signed a statement to the police telling them as far as she knew, what happened to her. If she would have done something like that, that would have been a crime to do that if it didn't happen. but apparently they all believed what happened, and of course you listen to them all speaking. If you listen to that old newscast with them talking about this, it seems like they were telling the truth. They seemed like they were believable people, and it seemed like they were part of something that was incredible that happened. Maybe the Men in Black situation scared them and made them decide, hey, let's just forget about this. Who knows? Just recently I was talking in one of my podcasts about how, David M. Jacobs, the retired Temple University professor who, conducted over 1,000 different hypnotic regressions with different people who claimed to have been alien abductees, did over 1,000 of these things, and he came to the conclusion and reported these conclusions in his book from 2015, Walking Among Us, and we were just talking about that recently. He concluded that some of the alien hybrids are considered security hybrids. They're enforcers. They try to cover things up. They try to tell people. They do things. They control people somehow telepathically. Some certain people, like if certain people know something, they want them to be quiet. They don't want that stuff to go out to the public. So they'll threaten them. They'll intimidate them, and God knows what else they'll do to them, just to make them shut up so they don't tell the public what they know. And maybe that's what happened here. Who knows? Then again, it could be a hoax. I guess we'll never know, because nothing. I've searched for the last week here. I've been searching the internet trying to find different follow up to this, but there really is none. There's nothing ever. That was it. I mean, they appeared on TV. There was an investigation by this Australian UFO organization, and the investigation came to an end. And it doesn't seem like there was any more information that came forward out of this. All we have is that's those initial statements from these people. Apparently they didn't try to make any money off this or anything like that. They just disappeared. They didn't talk about it anymore, and maybe that's the way they want it. I guess that's a tough thing to deal with. It would be a tough thing. I mean, actually, there was, in this interview, in this news report, there was one part, and I'm not even going to put it on there, it's not worth it, but there was a cop, that one of the people that was investigating this, and he couldn't even answer any questions because he thought it was a total joke, and he was laughing. It was very embarrassing. Very embarrassing. But again, it's that person laughing, that police officer laughing at this whole story at the time. That goes to show you how stigmatized this whole topic is. Most people just can't accept it. To them, it sounds completely silly because governments of the world have made it sound silly. Of course, that's starting to change now. But at that time, 2001, people would laugh at it and think it was silly. Most people. Again, that's starting to change now. But again, this is one of the. If this really happened, it seems to me like it was a botched alien abduction. Somebody on the abduction end of this, the aliens, obviously screwed up because the other people in that house were never supposed to be alerted, and obviously that's why they would have dropped her off 500 miles away, because they couldn't take her back. By the time they were done with the abduction, they couldn't take her back, obviously, because the other people in the house were awake, contacting the cops. The police were showing up, so that's why they couldn't drop her off there. So if the story is true, but it's a very interesting case, and one that I'm surprised I didn't hear about before.